Okay.
So anything that you say, I started recording now. So once again, welcome to this session, and anything that you say will be recorded. If you want to chat in the chat box, that's not recorded. So if you wanted to keep anything more anonymous, you can put it in there, but this is only for our use. So you know that.
It's okay. No problem.
Okay, great.
I'm okay with it.
Wonderful. So once again, welcome. And I'm Nathan. This is my partner, Astara, and we are Akashic Trancework. And I want to tell you a little bit about where we came from and what we've developed, and then we'll go into some of these fascinating topics that we'll be
Okay.
covering today. So Akashic Trancework is a synthesis of our many years of spiritual study and practice and counseling and teaching. And what we've come to understand through all of these processes is how consciousness works, how it evolves, how it develops. We came to this understanding a few years back as we came to understand the idea of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the unity principle. It's the concept that we are all one body, we're all one consciousness, but we're also separate. We're also sort of like separate cells in this one body. And how we perceive each other, how we see one another in a very real way gives us our individual identities. I'm separate because you perceive me as being separate, and that gives me form, it gives me identity. And I see you as separate, and that gives you identity in a certain way. It's about association. So as we came to understand this Ubuntu principle, which means I am because we are, that's a translation for the term Ubuntu, we came to understand this idea of ARE, activation, release, and expansion. This seems to be the cycle by which consciousness grows, by which we evolve over time, this simple three-phase cycle of activation, release, and expansion. And all of the different spiritual paradigms and psychological theories that we've studied support this. And this is sort of a simplified way of gauging and watching this process. And as we have seen each other and our clients and our students go through these processes, it's become obvious that most of our experiences kind of fall along these lines. So everything that we do in Akashic trance work is intended to guide us along this cycle instead of sort of being victim to it, which is what we usually are. Typically, when an activation happens, we've all had activation points, right? We become aware of something. There's an awareness that happens. We might call this an ascension point or a spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it. Our entire universe is kind of shifted, right? It's turned upside down. We're aware. I heard you talking
Yeah.
about this a little bit. We're aware on a new level. A new awareness has been unlocked. Some of our senses have been awakened. We have many senses, many capacities. The Egyptians taught us that we have 360 senses. We don't even have
Wow.
words for most of those senses in English. You know, sometimes we talk about clairaudience or clairvoyance or clairsentience, intuition, sixth sense, but really it's so much more broad than that. So as we become activated, as these higher senses become activated, we become aware of things inside of us that are blocking us, right? Blockages, usually old fears, old traumas, old beliefs, sometimes things that have happened in our current lifetime, sometimes things that have happened in previous lifetimes, sometimes things that we inherited from our ancestors. Maybe they're even just collective energies that we're kind of bearing in our systems. But regardless, these things tend to kind of gum us up. They make us feel heavy. They actually are remembered by our bodies. They're held in our cells, our cellular memory. All of these blockages take a lot of energy that tend to distract us. We think about them, we feel them, we worry about them, and they distract us. They take our energy. They keep us from really being who we can be, from really living full lives. So we've gone through a process of release many times. The alternative when you come up against these things, when you encounter these blockages, is to suppress. And that's what most of us tend to do over our lives, is we suppress our awareness. And what happens when we do that? We end up suffering, right? We like to call that sometimes the ASS cycle. ASS, activate, suppress, and suffer. And that's what most of us do. And, you know, it turns us into asses, right? Because we are just spreading our suffering across the world because we're acting out of our fear conditioning. So when we truly allow ourselves to do that deep shadow work, to go in and release those things that don't serve us, that are holding us back, and sometimes they are limiting beliefs. Sometimes they're external conditions like jobs. I think you mentioned a job, or relationships, or maybe it's a lifestyle. It could be anything. But once we let those things go, then that's when the real magic happens, because we suddenly have free space, free energy, free time, free life to focus on the things we want to focus on. And in our work, we do a lot of things like past life regression, accessing Akashic records, connecting with our ancestors, connecting with our star family, exploring different dimensions. But it doesn't have to be that. Expansion can look like anything. Sometimes it's starting a new business. Sometimes it's, pursuing a project of some kind. It's really not important what you do. It's having the energy to do it. Then eventually, as we go through these expansion phases, we will eventually go into a new activation and a new release and a new expansion. It's really an endless cycle. But what we've learned to do is to use our consciousness, use our awareness, use our senses to actively engage this cycle, instead of kind of riding along, almost like on the back of a wild elephant. We're kind of training that elephant to go the direction we want to go in. So it's an empowering thing. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing for
Mm-hmm.
time. And if you have any questions at any time, any thoughts, any feedback,
Okay.
feel free to jump in. So we'll be
Okay.
going through some of the tools that we've developed for accessing our different states of consciousness. And then we'll be going through a practice where we cultivate astral boundaries, where we cultivate our energy, where we conserve our energy, where we learn how to be conscious about our thoughts and feelings. Then I'll take you on a brief guided journey for about 10 minutes. It's like a guided meditation. So it's going to be a relaxed place for that. And then we'll allow a few minutes after that. If you have any thoughts or feedback or questions, then you're more than welcome to jump in. So talk a little bit about these different trance states. So
Okay.
why do we care about trance states? Why do we care about engaging our inner mind? What does that have to do with the ARE cycle? Well, most of our world, most of our lives happen beneath the surface. The conscious mind is like the tip of the iceberg. Everything else is beneath the surface, beneath the ocean of our subconscious mind. These trance states allow us to engage the subconscious using the symbolic language of our dreams, the archetypal, metaphorical language that the subconscious mind speaks. The more that we can engage the subconscious with our creative, imaginative capacities, the more healing and empowerment we can do, the more we'll be able to consciously release those things, consciously expand, and really just explore and understand and deepen into who we are. It's really about learning more about who we are individually. I think one thing that sets us apart at Akashic Trancework is not so much, we don't try to impose a belief system on people too much. Obviously, we do have beliefs that we hold true. We have ethics, we have practices. But really, what we're trying to encourage is for people to understand the power of belief and to create and embrace and understand their personal spirituality, their personal power, connecting with their own guides. I think that you sent a form, one of our forms over, and what I really liked about it was how in tune you are with your guides. We do a lot of work like that in the Akashic Trance work.
Yeah.
So if you do that kind of work already, this sort of thing will just help you to deepen into that practice. So in order to really understand how this works, we have to understand how the brain works. You may be familiar with these things, or maybe not, but you could actually measure the different states of awareness that are going on in your brain on an EEG, on a machine. When we're very active, when we're very engaged with our physical
Mm-hmm.
3D experience, we have a lot of beta waves going on, those tight, active waves that can be measured. And we need beta waves. Beta waves are energizing. They would allow us to engage with the physical world, to get things done, to go out to work and all those things. People that don't have a lot of beta activity tend to be very ungrounded. They're not good at showing up for things. Maybe they have a lot of financial problems. It's something that can be remedied through grounding practice, through earthing practice, through playing beta waves back, through biofeedback, tones, binaural frequencies. Those are great. We don't focus a lot on trying to bring in more beta activity in Akashic trance work unless we feel very ungrounded. And grounding practice is very important. If we're trancing a lot, we want to make sure we stay grounded. But primarily when we talk about trance work, we're talking about working in those deeper states, going out of the beta state and going within, going into the alpha and theta states primarily. And we also work in delta and gamma. But when we talk about inducing a trance, bringing ourselves into a trance state, we're mostly talking about trying to go into alpha or theta states. An alpha state is that daydreamy, lightly meditating, or even deeply meditating, depending on where you're going, but it's introspective. You're looking within, you're sitting with your thoughts and feelings, but you're still pretty aware of what's going on around you. You can speak with people and you're still engaged, but you're just kind of spacing off a little bit, daydreaming. And it's a very powerful place. It's a very visual place for a lot of people, and people that spend a lot of time there tend to get looked down upon in our society a little bit. You know, it's like, oh, you're a daydreamer, you're spacing out, you're not paying attention. But in Akashic trance work, we really value that space. It's very powerful. It's the same state that people go into when they take like ayahuasca or teaching plant like that. It's a very powerful state where you can engage the creative visual capacities of the mind to really affect yourself, affect your life, affect your feelings, affect your experience. So we really value the alpha states, and we develop some ways that we can take ourselves in and out of those alpha states pretty readily. Then down below the alpha state, you have the delta state. And the delta state is when you're physically asleep, your mind and body are completely at rest. Your ego, your conscious running narrative of the world is completely subdued. You have no desire to go do anything. It's completely asleep. And we need those states to be able to heal. We can receive a lot of healing in those states. They're very good for receiving sound healing and things like that. But we don't try to really go into delta states intentionally that much unless we just want to go to sleep, because we want to be able to engage with the subconscious. And the delta state's not really an engaged state. We want to really shoot for the alpha state or the theta state. And the theta state is sometimes called the sweet spot of trance work, because that's where the really deep work happens. When you're in a really deep meditative state, when you're dreaming, when you're induced by someone else, by a hypnotist or a shaman, someone like that. And that's the kind of work that I do with people. I take them into a theta state. And having a guide is very helpful because it keeps you in that sort of just awake enough state where you can engage and remember. But we also teach ways that we can take ourselves, that anyone can take themselves into these theta places and have these deep experiences, do these dimensional journeys, astrally project, connect with their past lives, connect with the Akashic records, and then bring themselves out. And when we talk about reading the Akashic record, usually we're talking about going into a theta state, getting something, and then bringing it back out. Normally, if we go into a theta state, we're going to fall asleep. We're going to get so comfortable, so relaxed, we'll fall asleep. And that's great. You know, we need sleep sometimes. But most of us don't remember and can't control very well our dreams. If you're an active lucid dreamer, if you can control your dreams, if you can remember those experiences, then you're doing this very well. You're very astrally active. But most people don't have that all the time. So the theta state, when we cultivate that from a conscious place, from a waking place, we can do a lot of intentional, guided work with the subconscious that we can't do as readily in our dream states. And then we also talk often about gamma states. And gamma states are not a trance state exactly. They're more of a consciousness and awareness that we cultivate. It's been shown that Buddhist meditators that do a lot of meditation, loving kindness, compassion type meditation produce these gamma waves. People that have been meditating and doing trance work for many years have been shown to have these gamma waves present. You can see how relaxed they are, but it's a fully waking state. You can go into gamma states when you're asleep too, but you can be fully awake, fully aware, but you're essentially an enlightened state. It's basically what it is, but we call it the heart-centered awareness. It's that state of pure centered heartfulness. It's interesting because we talk about grounding, which is the beta state, the most active state.
Yeah.
Then we talk about centering, which is the least active state. So the fully centered state is the gamma state, and the fully grounded state is the beta state. So it's like this unifying, most relaxed plus the most active state. If you can have a perfect gamma state going with just enough beta waves to keep you awake, then you can move through life in a state of this perfect balance. And, none of us are going to be there all the time, but we want to learn to cultivate these gamma states. And that's some of what we do in our practice with astral boundaries. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit more about these different states because they're really interesting. So the alpha state, as we talked about, is that meditative, daydreamy, very introspective, reflective space. And it's really powerful because most of us can really get there very easily, especially very imaginative, creative people can very readily get to an alpha state pretty much at any time. A lot of the people that come to us are people that actually maybe go there too much and need some help being able to regulate their movement between these alpha states and a more active beta state. But the reason that we love the alpha state so much is that it's our gateway to the astral experience. And when we talk about the astral experience, we're not just talking about, going outside of our bodies or going to other dimensions. We're really talking about all of our inner space, all of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, imagination, creativity, our spiritual visions, our spiritual awareness. That's all part of our astral space. Sometimes we call this our fourth dimensional awareness. And it's differentiated from physical space because, well, it's non-physical. Physical space is everything outside of us, right? Obviously, if I take a ball and I drop it, it's dictated by the laws of physics. What it does is going to be predictable. If you have an imaginary ball and you drop it, it could turn to a bird or something, you never really know what's going to happen. But there are actually certain principles that apply in astral space. And a lot of the work that we do with the different tools we developed, different methodologies and modalities we've studied are about trying to understand what those astral laws are, what those astral principles are. And most of those revolve around connecting with the symbolic dream language and understanding things like archetypes and symbolism.
I have
So,
a question.
yes, go
I
ahead.
have a question. Lately, because I work out at the gym and I do fitness, and I listen when I do it. I listen or something from Abraham Hicks, some Rampage, or something from something related for star seeds things. But normally, lately, what happened is that I'm here doing the workout, but I'm also there. I'm in two places. And today it was very clear that I was in a kind of somewhere else. I was working out very hard with heavy weight, but I was seeing that I was in a place in the astral place. Is that what is that? What kind of this is very interesting because I knew what I was doing. I was kind of aware. I could feel, I could count how many I had to do, but I was like, I felt I was split in two because I was there as well. It was very interesting, and I felt good, and I felt I had more power.
That's amazing. That's a phenomenon that is called bilocation. That's what we call it, is
Oh, okay.
bilocation. So it's the practice of being fully engaged in your physical body, but also astrally aware. And it's hard to say what state you're in. There's machines that could measure you, but from what you're describing, it does actually sound like an engaged gamma state, or at very least a nice balanced alpha state, because you're fully engaged with your inner world, with your astral space. You're fully present, but you're also physically active. And that's, a good point. In Akashic Trance work, we talk a lot about kind of these passive, relaxing practices for going into trance, but there's many ways to go into a trance state. Physical activity is a very well-known way to induce a trance state, especially any kind of repetitive motion. anything that's repetitive will bring you into that state. So if you're just doing anything like that,
Okay.
the classic hypnotist, the watch moving back and forth, you can use a finger to induce a state in someone, but the physical action of repetition is very inductive. We'll talk a little bit about trance
Oh,
induction, and maybe this will kind of make sense, and this might
okay.
actually be in alignment with some things you already do. So one of the main ways that we can induce different trance states, and you may have already experienced this quite a bit, is the breath. We use a lot of breath work and Akashic trance work, and meditation or yoga or in physical activity, breath is very important. You're paying attention to the breath. You're being
Yeah.
mindful of the breath. Yeah, pranayama, that type of thing. And in Akashic trance work, we haven't necessarily created an entire unique system of breath work. We're not recreating the wheel, but we have observed and developed some very simple breath patterns that seem to reliably bring us into an alpha state or into a theta state pretty quickly. They're pretty effective for most people. So, for instance, in order to get ourselves into an alpha state, most of us just need to relax our breath a little bit, especially if you're very active, if you're feeling very active, very engaged, if you're feeling any level of anxiety. This can be very good, very healing. It'll bring you down to this relaxed alpha place very quickly. So for most people, it's about a count of 5 on the inhale and 5 on the exhale. For some people, depending on your lung capacity and your comfort, it may be a little bit less or a little bit more. You don't usually want to go beyond 7 seconds if you're trying to get into an alpha state, because that will relax you more, which is good, but we're trying to figure out how we can stay in this nice alpha place. So if you would like, I would invite you to try it with me now to do some very simple alpha breathing.
Okay.
And we'll just do this for about 30 or 40 seconds. And I'll
Okay.
count for you. On the inhale, 5,
Yeah.
exhale, 5. So
Okay.
just relax a little bit
Yeah.
and breathe in now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with that breath, you should immediately begin to start receiving more of your inner world, your thoughts and feelings and visions and things become more prevalent. You're just engaging that astral space a little bit more. It's very easy. Most of us can do breath work. You can do it anywhere. That's what I like about these tools. You can do them anywhere. You can do them privately. You can do them without a ritual. You can do them without a guide. Very simple. You can do them in the woods. You can do them in your bedroom. You can do them in the car, although don't relax too much while driving trying to do that.
Yeah.
But breath is not always for everyone. Sometimes we don't want to have to count our breath. Sometimes it's not effective. If our minds are too agitated, if we're too much in our minds, too much in our thoughts, and we're allowing our thoughts to rile us up, pushing us back towards that sort of beta fear state, that means we need to get out of our minds and more into our bodies. And that's kind of what you're doing when you are working out, when you're taking yourself into a trance that way. But another way that we get into our bodies, to our physical awareness, to induce different states, is through the practice of toning. And toning is a little bit like singing, so like humming.
Mm.
Essentially, you're humming, you're vibrating your voice into a different part of your body. If you've ever done
Mm.
mantra, if you've ever chanted, if you've ever done any kind of toning into the different chakras, one common way people do it, they'll intone a different syllable into one of the different energy centers, and that's a known method, but it's really very simple. It doesn't have to be a specific note or a specific sound. You don't have to sound good. Like, I'm not a singer, but I do this. It just feels really relaxing. It actually is vibrating the different energy centers of your body and helping you to induce these different states. It's a very primal thing.
Mm.
You probably already do this. If you have children, you
No,
ever,
no, I don't have children.
well,
No.
you were a child once.
Yes.
So your mother probably hummed you to sleep. This is something that happens to us all.
Ah,
We're
yeah.
all
Ah.
very attuned
Yeah.
vibrationally, right? So
Yeah.
it's something that, all of us as humans can relate to in some way. That's how a mother soothes a child, is through the vibration of her voice.
Yeah.
Best. So it's a very primal thing. And sound is also the organizing structure of the universe. Sound is actually what makes everything happen, vibration. So all we're doing is we're vibrating into different parts of our bodies. And we can do this. We can all control where our voices are. We can try to speak really low or we can speak really high. We can control the tone and pitch of our voice,
Yeah.
even if we can't sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy, Brett, really. And you could do it
Yeah.
anytime, anywhere. It feels really good. So in order to demonstrate how we can tone ourselves into an alpha state, what we found is that all we really have to do is hum into our faces, into our third eye, into our eyes, into our nose, into our throat, into that articulation, to that creativity, into that parts of our light bodies that open us, that open our awareness. So I welcome you to try right now. You may not be able to hear me. I'm just going to kind of hum lightly into my nose, into my face. You don't need
Okay.
to hear me. I don't need to hear you, but just try it and see how it makes you feel. So take a deep breath in.
Mm.
Take one more breath. Try it one more time.
Mm.
It's very relaxing. And if you do it in the right configuration, you should feel some vibration
Oh, yeah.
in your cheeks and your forehead and your
Yeah.
eyes. It's very relaxing. Feels really nice. And you can do that anywhere.
Mm.
Yeah, we love toning. Toning is like our favorite thing to do. A lot of the practices that we've
Oh,
developed started with the practice of toning. We've really done a
okay.
lot just from learning how to use the
Okay.
vibrations in our bodies to activate the different levels of awareness. So toning is very easy. It's a lot of fun to do with other people if they are open to it, even if they're not into the whole thing. It's something that people can relate to. It's just, you can experiment with making different sounds. You can do it with your mouth open. You can be loud about it. One thing that Astar and I will do sometimes is we'll go back to back and just kind of feel the vibration in
Yeah.
the backs. There's a lot of really fun things you can do. So the same kind of tools are in place for the theta state. And I want to talk a little bit more about the theta state and what it's for. The theta state is, again, that sweet spot of deep trance work. It's that place where we dream, where we connect with our deeper awareness, where we have our out of body experiences. And in those states, we're mostly unaware of what's going on externally. We might have some sense of it, but we're not going to be heavily affected by it. If you're in a deep theta trance, someone could probably come along and touch you or pick up your arm and drop it, and you wouldn't even care because you're so deeply engaged with your inner world. And that's the true Akashic experience, because we're completely within. Akasha is just that inner experience, the spiritual experience, the etheric experience, right? So as we go within, we touch that Akashic experience and we can connect with our past lives. We can connect with our ancestors. We can connect with our deeper spiritual understanding. We don't have to connect with our past lives, but we can tap into our higher senses, our extra dimensional senses. Our ideas of past lives are only one sense. Really, we have a sense of our past lives. We have many other senses. And that's the place that we go to in our theta experience. If you go into a shamanic journey where they take you on a spirit journey, or if you go into a hypnotic state, if you're induced into a hypnotic state, you're going into a theta state, most likely. It's very powerful. A lot of healing can go on there. A lot of deeply empowering and uplifting things can happen there. And we can really go through and we can begin the process of releasing our deep traumas and clearing our cellular memory of those things that don't serve us. And the theta state is where we want to be. But we want to try to get there and bring something back. We want to try to go down into a theta state, but not go down into a delta state, because if we go to sleep, we may need to go to sleep. We need sleep, but we're not going to remember. We're not going to be able to engage with anyone. So we want to get to that point just before we fall asleep and kind of stay there and then come out of it. It's a little bit tricky. It takes some practice, but it is possible to do on your own without a guide. And There's also value in having a guide, having someone there to ask you, and having someone there to witness. But if you can take yourself into a theta state by breathing into it or by toning into it, and then take yourself out, then you can do a lot of really powerful work. And that's where some of these deeper Akashic record readings and things like that happen. So just like the alpha trance, we can get ourselves into the theta states with breath or toning. The theta breath is deeper, it's longer than the alpha breath because we're trying to relax ourselves more, but it's not the deepest breath you can take. The deepest breath you can take will usually put you to sleep. It'll put you into a delta state very quickly. You want to really do about the second deepest breath you can take, which for most people is about 7 seconds on the inhale and 7 seconds on the exhale. You want to make sure you don't
Okay.
go too deep. If you go too deep, again, you'll fall asleep. If you go too shallow, then you'll be too aware of your body. It's really about playing with these different breathing techniques and seeing how they affect your awareness. And you'll notice pretty remarkably that the different breathing patterns do affect your perception, how inwardly or outwardly focused you are. So for most people, 7 seconds is plenty. So if you'd like to go ahead and try it with me, we'll just try it for a couple
Yeah.
seconds. So
Okay.
nice and relaxed, and I'll count for you. Let's inhale for 7 seconds. In,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you'll find that it immediately begins to relax you very deeply. I don't want to do it too many times right now. We actually will here in a few minutes. We'll go into a guided experience where I will take you into a deeper theta place. But we want to be mindful with that because if I do it too much myself, I'll just kind of fall asleep myself.
Okay.
So it's very powerful though. But again, breath is not always what we want to do. And the theta breath, as wonderful as it is, the toning that we can do for the theta experience is so relaxing. It's my favorite thing to do, one of my favorite things to do in the world. It's very, very relaxing. In order to tone ourselves into that theta place, all we have to do is just hum, vibrate our voices into that space between the heart and the solar plexus. It's very
Okay.
relaxing, feels really nice. So if you want to give it a try, let's do it. Take a deep breath in.
Okay.
Mm.
Mm.
Let's try it once more. Mm.
Mm.
Nice feeling. It vibrates your whole chest, your hands, your arms. And if you can
Yeah.
master toning yourself down to a theta state, then you can get down into a trance very quickly on your own and do a lot of that deep work. A lot of these other practices for getting ourselves into theta take a long time. They can take 15, 20 minutes, a half hour. But if you can tone yourself or breathe yourself into any of these states, you should be able to get to whatever state of awareness you want to get to within minutes. Most of our students that have been doing this for just a little while can get to a theta place very quickly. So that's how we induce trance states. So let's talk a little bit about what we do once we're there. And I think that, you know, you're a
Okay.
pretty advanced astral traveler, but
Oh,
from what
I
you
don't
told
see
me,
myself like this. Well, I do my thing, but okay, if you say so, I believe you.
I do say so because I saw your survey and I see that you are very engaged with your inner world, and that's a big part of
Yeah,
it. But the question is sometimes, what do we do with all the stuff that starts happening
yeah,
go within, right? As soon as we sort of open that doorway to the third eye, everything comes in all at once, right? We have all of our visions, all of our memories, all of our imagination, all of our creativity, our ideas, our inspiration, our fears, our concerns, all those things, our memories just kind of bubbling up. What do we do with those things? What do we do with them? We want to create a space inside of ourselves where we can choose. We want to create a place of empowerment an intentional astral space where we can choose what to do with all that stuff. We want to build a home in our astral space. Some people do this naturally, and this is not a new concept. If you are familiar with some other practices like A Course in Miracles or some other things that talk about like an astral temple
No,
or an inner holy space.
not really.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very helpful practice, creating an intentional astral space. If you think about, in your physical space, you want to have a shelter, you want to have a home, a place where you are sheltered from the elements, where you can cultivate yourself, where you can nourish yourself, where you can rest, where you can decorate the way you want, where you can let down your guard a little bit. We need that in our physical space. Some might say it's a basic human right, but we also need that in our inner space. We need an inner home where we can nourish ourselves, where we can cultivate ourselves, where we can connect with ourselves, where we can spend time with ourselves. A lot of us don't give ourselves enough time, enough quality time. We might spend all of our time alone, but are we really spending quality time with ourselves? Are we really pouring into ourselves? Are we nourishing and nurturing ourselves in the right way? Are we managing our thoughts and feelings? Are we directing our energy in constructive ways? And that's really the meat of what we do at Akashic Trancework, is try to cultivate these tools. So the intentional astral space is very powerful. The difference between creating an intentional astral space and doing something like an affirmation, and affirmations are great. We say, I am love, I'm abundance, I'm wellness, I will have that new car I want, whatever it is. Those things are effective, but after a while, the mind kind of gets bored with them. Our conscious mind tends to talk us out of those things because of all of our conditioning and our beliefs and all those things, because affirmations are not complex. Affirmations are simple, and our minds crave complexity, especially highly intelligent, creative people. The mind craves complexity, needs complexity. So one of the main practices that we do is the creation of this safe space, this astral home, which we've come to connect with the heart center. One of the most common astral safe spaces is the beach, the imaginary beach. People can very easily remember a beach or imagine a beach. It's got a lot of positive associations for many people. Time with their family, the relaxing sound of the waves, they can smell the smells and hear the sounds, and it's a very positive association. And that's what this is about. It's about association. It's about recalling the positive energy from ourselves. Hopefully, in your lifetime, you've had positive experiences. Not everyone has. I don't always want to assume.
No, I prefer not beach. I like beach, but no, it's not for me.
Absolutely. And that's the point. It doesn't have to be the
I
beach.
prefer a garden. I
A
prefer a
garden, yes.
garden.
Gardens are very common too. Any place that has positive association, it doesn't even have to be like a realistic place. It could be completely
Yeah.
abstract. I've had people where their safe space is Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland, or a planet out in space, or just floating in water, floating in space. The actual components
Yeah.
of it don't matter as much as the association. It's a place where we feel good, a place where we feel safe,
Yeah.
at peace, where we can fully engage with our senses, fully engage with our awareness, and cultivate our energy. We want to cultivate this space. We want to bring in the things that make us feel good there, the things that make us feel joy and happiness, whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be anything that anyone else would find joyful. It's about us. It's about creating a little bit of space for ourselves where we can just be happy, where we can just be at peace, where we have no expectations, where we have no pressures. It's just being, it's just resting into ourselves completely. And when we do this, we're creating a place of empowerment, a home base, an astral home base where we can explore the entire universe if we want to, but it's a place to come home to. So bringing in those things that bring us joy, in a way, those are the building blocks of these safe spaces. So whatever makes us laugh. I like this image because it's important to
Yeah.
laugh, right? It's important to have joy. Joy is sometimes they say the spice of life, and it really is. The more that we can cultivate joyful experiences, remembering joyful experiences, those actually expand our heart centers. This practice is connecting to the heart center, to gamma heart-centered awareness. The more we bring in joy for its own sake, the more we bring in happiness for its own sake, the more empowered we become to make those choices about where we want to direct our energy. We want to spend time with ourselves. We want to cultivate some energy for ourselves. We don't want to spend all of our time on ourselves. We're loving, compassionate, giving people. This isn't about hiding or being narcissistic or just spending all of
I'm
our time
sorry, I
on
need to
ourselves.
interrupt to say something.
Absolutely. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry
Go ahead.
because I'm really amazed with something that I already experienced without knowing. I did this healing with the Arcturians, and
Mm,
I did this. I put myself in this astral place with my heart, and it was this imaginary place, this beautiful garden, but it was not a 3D place garden. It was full of fairies, and it was, I can see it when you were
wow.
telling, and I was smiling because I was there. It 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 makes a lot of sense what you say, because I have been there already, and I'm talking to you and I'm seeing it,
Mm,
because it's a place that I imprinted in my heart
mm,
already.
yeah, that's it.
You know,
Exactly it.
it made so much sense, and sometimes I doubt myself. I doubt, and I'm overwhelmed with this information that you're giving me, because I'm really emotional,
Mm,
because I know I'm walking the right walk.
that's
Thank
terrific.
you.
Of course, that
Thank
you,
you.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I work with the Arcturians quite a bit. Actually, one of the beginnings of this modality was me receiving a very direct Arcturian download. So it's interesting to tune into that frequency for that wavelength, because I do work with those beings quite a bit. And
Yeah,
Dara works with Arcturian beings. So we both work with starseed energy. So it's all in the right resonance. Yeah, that's amazing.
oh my goodness. I have so much goosebumps now.
Wonderful. It's a good feeling. That's a good sign. And then we have this lady here who's just spending time with herself. That's just an illustration of,
Yeah.
being contented with ourselves. So, if you would like, I'd be happy to guide you through, just about
Yes.
5 or 6 minutes of a deep experience where you can explore some of that space, and we can look at creating some intentional astral boundaries and selecting how you direct your energy. If you're up for that,
Yes.
wonderful. So I recommend that you find a nice relaxed position,
Yeah.
get nice and comfortable, and take some relaxed breaths. Just fully and deeply allowing yourself to get comfortable. And we'll do that 5 count of the breath again. And I'll count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just continue to breathe. Just allow your thoughts and feelings to flow in. Just being present with whatever thoughts and feelings flow into your mind without judging them, without attaching to them, without pushing them away. All thoughts are okay. All feelings are okay. All is just experience. Just relax into this place of easy peace, easy relaxation, and we'll now count to 7 on the inhale and 7 on the exhale to relax a bit deeper. Breathing in now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continue to breathe and relax as you begin to imagine that safe space, that garden, fully imagining yourself there, being there with all of the smells and sounds and textures and color, shape, bringing in all of the things that bring you joy. Any people, plants, guides, memories, song, poem, anything and everything. Only the things that bring you joy. Just spend a moment there, breathing and enjoying this place. And if anything comes here that doesn't belong, any uncomfortable feeling, it's okay to send those away for now, to create a boundary, to let those feelings know you will talk to them later. Right now, you're taking some time for yourself, using some energy for yourself, cultivating your energy so you can be a more effective human, a more effective person, more loving, more compassionate, more joyful, more thriving. You may find some of those things resist, pushing back on your desire to make them go away. It just means they want your attention. They want your energy. Maybe they're your responsibility. Maybe they're just memory. Maybe there's another person or people you are thinking about. Maybe it's a simple distraction that you can't quite seem to let go of. Whatever it is, it's time to choose. How much of your energy are you going to give away to this thing? How much of your time each day, 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. It's up to you to choose. But realize whatever you are thinking about is within your astral boundary. Whatever you are feeling is within your astral boundary. It's time to decide how much energy, how much of your life, how much of your time to give away. Maybe these things deserve your energy, maybe not. But there's nothing that requires all of your energy. You can spend time here. You can cultivate yourself, even if just for 1 minute a day. It's time to choose. How much time will you give yourself here every day? This is a real place. Some call it the heart temple. It's a place where you cultivate yourself, where you recharge your base, your home within. You choose what goes here and what stays outside. Spend a moment in that space, creating those boundaries, those rules. If you can create these boundaries within yourself, you can set a boundary very easily with any being in the universe of any kind, no matter how powerful they may be. They must respect the sovereign boundary of your heart temple. Take a couple more breaths in this space and slowly begin bringing yourself back to your physical space, but remembering how easily you can come back here anytime you want to, just by remembering what this place looks like, just by remembering what it feels like. If you can come here in any situation within yourself, you will always be protected. Your heart is the ultimate protection, the ultimate safety. How do you feel?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Very good. Mm.
So I've got a couple minutes left. I wanted to offer you
Okay.
the opportunity. If you had any questions or thoughts or feedback at all, I'd be more than happy to discuss with you.
I listened again as soon as I arrived in this place. I saw a couple of friends, Arcturians, and then I saw somebody from my, I think, light family. I know, but I listened. Is the light language again? Sometimes I understand some things, but I still have to learn to understand more. But then it was just more visual and feeling, and it was like a welcome, and but it was a beautiful experience.
Good.
Then I flew a little bit with the Pegasus, and it was very nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. For now, I think you made it very clear. It's amazing that I think the things that are going, unfolding for me is that I it's popping up like you, like I have contact with some other people, but what it's making more real is that I think it's my higher self, just do this, do that, so it's becoming more real because, to be honest, you are the first real contact that I take with this matter. I never had this before. So it means something for me,
Wonderful.
and I appreciate that. So I think I let it sink, and I think how you offer something else for me, so we need to do the another appointment for it, and then how we're going to move forward. We need to think. We need to, because I'm. It's so much things going on with me that I just listen, be patient, don't rush things, because it's just too much going, and you've been there, so
Oh yeah.
sometimes can be very overwhelming. So I'm going. Sorry for that. Somebody's
It's
just
okay.
calling me.
It's
My
okay.
sister has been calling the whole day. Uh,
No problem. So yes,
it's my sister that have been calling me the whole day, and I didn't feel like talking to anybody today. So I learned to say no.
it's a
This
boundary
is
right
the new thing.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yes. So that's a good example. That's a good synchronicity
Okay.
because reminding us of boundaries, boundaries work on many levels. So you're talking about the
Yes,
overwhelming feeling, then your sister calls, that's an example of synchronicity. Where are you pushing your energy? Are you allowing yourself to have that space for yourself? And that's the key to not feeling so overwhelmed by all of it because it is so much information, light language and downloads and all these things. And it's like, how do I make sense of it all? So that's a lot of the work that we do. We will send you an email
okay,
afterwards that'll have all the
please.
information that's covered. It'll have the links to consult and classes. You can always also sign up for another one of these webinars too. We switch them up. So anytime that you want to become engaged, you're welcome to do that. But
Yes,
we'll have all the information in that email, and you can, reach out to us anytime, myself
fantastic.
or Stara, and we can talk about your experiences. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know if you have any thoughts or questions going forward.
Yes, yes, we'll
Wonderful.
be in touch for sure. I
Good.
really do appreciate that. I send you guys many, many, many blessings.
Thank you.
Blessings. Yes, and yeah, it was very, very, very nice.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being
Thank you.
here.
Have a wonderful
And
evening.
thank you. Yeah, you too.
Right.
We'll talk soon.
Wonderful day, I think, there, right? You're in America.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay. We'll be in touch. Thank you
All right.
very much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.